Good morning. Happy Tuesday. Neuro coffee as usual. It is outstanding this morning. Yeah, it's a good batch. So, got up early this morning. I feel great. And so let's go to a Q&A question for today. This is from TS, and TS says, what's happening when you have someone that is standing with the pelvis in front of the ribs and a narrow ISA? How would you bring the pelvis back underneath the rib cage and get what I would think would be some extension back in the thoracic spine? So TS sent along a picture, and the picture actually shows what many folks would refer to as the traditional swayback posture. So it looks like a posterior orientation of the pelvis that is swayed forward. The sternum is actually compressed and pulled downward. So basically you're looking at a lot of rectus abdominis activity holding the sternum down. You'll see a flat upper thoracic spine, and you're going to see a little bend right at the inferior angle of the scapula. So my little skeleton guy doesn't really move, but if we look at the inferior angle of the scapula, it's going to be about right there. You're going to see that bend forward. And what this actually is not a kyphosis. This is someone that is near end game as far as the compensatory breathing strategies are. So they're compressing the anterior pelvis, they're compressing the posterior pelvis, they're compressing the anterior thorax and the posterior thorax. And so what they're doing is actually they're trying to get air in. And so what they do is they pull with rectus abdominis. It pulls the sternum down and it sways the pelvis forward and underneath them, but it creates a flexion in the thoracic spine at about T7-8, which is right at the inferior angle of the scapula. This creates a small space in the thorax that you can actually take air in. So it's actually an inhalation strategy that you're seeing. The problem is you're dealing with a lot of compression. TS throws in here, my first thought would be to go for an all-fours position for a narrow ISA. Typically, for a narrow ISA, you might want to do that. But now what we want to do is we want to modify that a little bit to sort of enhance our ability to create this anterior-posterior expansion. So a lot of times what we'll do is we'll invert people. So you start from the traditional quadruped position, elevate the knees a little bit to bring the hips up, and then drop them down to their elbows. In doing so, what you do is you invert the airflow in the lung. So typically, because of gravity and because we're upright, the lungs fill from the bottom up like a glass of water. Well, if we flip you upside down, then we actually get to fill the upper thorax. So it becomes a little bit easier to fill the upper thorax. So we get the anterior-posterior expansion. And the same thing is going to happen in the pelvis. So this expansion, the anterior-posterior thorax, is actually reflected in the pelvis. And so that's a nice way to start to re-expand the upper thorax and actually reduce some of the rectus abdominis activity. The only concern here is because the shoulder will be positioned above 90 degrees of flexion, and you may not have that full shoulder flexion or full hip flexion that will allow this inverted position. In this case, what I would do is I would start with the seated dorsal rostral expansion activity that you can find on the YouTube channel. So hopefully that gives you a little bit of strategy, a little bit of thought process in regard to some of these people that are showing these really, really strong compressive strategies in this swayback posture. If you have any other questions, please pass them on at askbillhartman@gmail.com, askbillhartman@gmail.com, and put in the subject line, Ask Bill Hartman question. Have a great Tuesday, and we'll see you guys later.